What's up, guys? It's your man, Donovan Sharp, and welcome to this edition of TSR Live. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Donovan_Sharp. You can always hit me in the contact tab of my website, donovansharp.com, if you have questions, comments, show ideas, personal stories you want to tell me, and so forth. You can find all my episodes on my website. You can also find them on YouTube as well as SoundCloud. You can also find them on iTunes as well. If you want to support the show, do all your Amazon shopping through my affiliate link in the sidebar of my homepage. And guys, be sure to sign up for the weekly newsletter, which is just above the Amazon link. Again, the reason I've started sending out a newsletter is because, I mean, any platform that I'm on, this one included, they could pull my content for any reason. I've said before, this kind of stuff is not, it's not well liked. And a lot of times, big companies have to make hard choices because of the public. And if YouTube finds itself getting its advertisers, big advertisers like AT&T and so forth, pulling their ads or not giving Google or YouTube the opportunity to show their ads as much, that's going to cut into their revenue. So they have to do what's in their best interest financially. Again, sign up for the newsletter. That way you always know where you can find the Sharp Reality and all the content with regards to that. Okay, so now to the topic at hand. I've been chomping at the bit all day long to do this particular episode. I've got people hitting me on Twitter. Hey, what do you think about the LaVar Ball thing? And I had to let them know, hey, just patience. I've got to let some things develop and make sure that I have the whole story. So what the sports world is abuzz about is the LaVar Ball appearance on The Herd with Colin Cowherd today. Now, normally I just listen on my phone if I'm working out, riding my bike, doing other things. But today I actually happen to have The Herd with Colin Cowherd on my TV. It's simulcast on FS1. Sometimes they're on FS2, depending upon whatever their scheduling is. So LaVar Ball comes on, and he's being typical LaVar Ball. He's brash. He has a lot of gravitas, a lot of panache, very outgoing, very boisterous, selling his brand as usual. Well, of course, Colin comes to the subject of his shoes and says, yeah, hey, again, your shoes are $495. How many shoes have you sold? And LaVar responds with, well, I've sold a lot for me. So LaVar isn't trying to give exact numbers. He probably hasn't sold as many as he would like. Either that, or he's just keeping those affairs to himself. So then Kristine Leahy jumps in and says, how many? As soon as she says this, LaVar, he puts his hand up to her, never looks her in the face, and says, stay in your lane. Doesn't even look at her. Now, Colin laughs, and I'm just going to give you guys just sort of a brief, I guess, a scripted version of this. So bear with me. If you haven't watched it, if you haven't heard it yet, for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm going to give you the highlights, the poignant moments in this particular interview, which was unbelievable. So anyway, LaVar doesn't even look at Kristine. He says, stay in your lane. Colin actually laughs because he finds it hilarious that one of his guests, this is the first guest he's ever had who has checked Kristine Leahy in this regard. Every one of his guests who comes on his show, oh, Kristine, I love you, and this and that and the other. Listen, Kristine Leahy is hot, and this is why all of his guests pander to her. That's the reason why. It has nothing to do with the fact that she is a talented, quote, broadcaster reporter. She's hot, so guys are going to be nice to her. They're going to run game. Fine, perfectly fine. LaVar Ball, he's not here for that. He is here for the promotion of his brand. And the reason why he said stay in your lane, and I got to credit this to Black Sports Online. I didn't even know about this or see this until recently. Kristine Leahy was on the Colin Cowherd also does a podcast called Speak for Yourself. And on a particular podcast, I can't really tell you guys when this particular podcast was, but there's Kristine Leahy talking about the relationship that LaVar Ball has with his boys. She says things like, it looks like they were forced to play basketball. They were afraid of him. They're terrified of him. And then she picks fun. LaVar would have to approve of any girl that comes into his life. So this is in the back of LaVar Ball. This is in the back of LaVar's mind when Kristine decides to chime in and try to act like a businesswoman and be trying to assess his risk assessment, I guess. He recognizes this for what it is, and he completely dismisses her because she spoke. He didn't like what she said, and anyone in sports has the right to not talk to anyone if he doesn't like what they say. That's just how it is. So he says, "Stay in your lane." Colin laughs. She gets huffy. She starts to say, well, I'm just curious. She's clearly rattled. Then LaVar says, "I'm not worried about her over there." Kristine gets rattled again. She's stammering. She says, well, I think that's disrespectful. And the funny thing is the reason why she thought it was disrespectful, because he said, "I'm not worried about her over there." Again, Kristine Leahy is not used to being spoken to like this by men. She's used to being fawned over all the time. It was unbelievable, the look on her face. You guys have to watch the video. It's all over the internet. So it continues. LaVar finally just says, "Just leave me alone." He's sort of half kidding. He's trying to keep it light and playful, but he's like, "Leave me alone." Now, Colin knows this thing is starting to go sideways. So he tries to jump in because he feels that's his responsibility. And he says, "Well, look, she's a reporter and her job is to probe." And LaVar cuts him off immediately. "She can report to whoever she wants behind her. I'm talking to you, Colin." He still hasn't looked at Kristine. And if you look at Colin's face, he's amused because, again, he's amused. He's loving what he's seeing because he knows that this is going to blow up his spot. Everybody's going to talk about this stuff. So finally, Kristine asks, "Well, what's your problem with me?" And LaVar says, "You are a hater." He's still not looking at her. He's not going to tell her the reason why. Like, he's not going to be specific, but he says, "You're a hater." Then he mocks her. He says, "Well, you're the one that says, 'Well, I would never wear a big baller shirt.'" It's so funny. Like, he's picking fun at her, and they have a little bit more back and forth, and he is clearly owning her. Then he finally says, "With all due respect, you're a great reporter, just not reporting on me." Then Kristine fires back and says, "Well, I have a right to say what I'll wear and when I'll wear it." And so he senses, LaVar senses that Kristine is a little rattled, and he says, "Uh-oh, welcome to the big baller zone." And he continues to mock her because he realizes that this chick is in over her head and has probably never been challenged on air like this in person. So LaVar has her right where he wants her. So then she tries to be his business consultant. She tries to change lanes. And she says, "Well, if you want to work with Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour, maybe you should have something that appeals to women." Then Colin says, "Well, look, I don't have to agree," and I'll get to that later. He says, "I don't have to agree, but I thought that was a legitimate point." Cowherd knows Kristine is overmatched. He knows this. That's why he's coming in to defend her. So then there's a little bit more back and forth. And finally, LaVar just says, "Next." Kristine continues to try to be this business consultant. She says, "Well, in order to have a successful company, I think you're going to have women like your brand." And LaVar, still not looking at her, says, "Yeah, if you got a woman's company." The way he said it was so dismissive. It was a stroke of brilliance from start to finish. This is must-see TV. You got to see this. So Kristine thinks she's got him at this point, right? Because he mentioned the W word, the woman word. And she says, "Oh, so you're not marketing to women." So with that little statement, she's trying to clown him and trying to pigeonhole him by saying you're not marketing to women. She wants people to draw and jump to the conclusion that he is a misogynist, which she knows it evokes all sort of outrage. Then Colin tries to get him to admit that he regrets the Michael Jordan thing. Colin has to, he knows this thing is not going well with Kristine. He knows Kristine Leahy is coming apart at the seams. So he tries to sort of change the subject. LaVar wouldn't let him do it. He said, "Look, I stood behind my statement about Michael Jordan. I could back him down." So Colin was basically shit testing him. He's trying to get him to show regret, trying to get him to show a little humanity, and LaVar wasn't having it. Then Colin said something about what Jason Whitlock said, and I'll get to that in a minute. So what Colin was referring to was that Jason Whitlock had said that Lonzo Ball, who is LaVar's son, was trying to be hard, like trying to get street cred because they see him as being soft, because he found out, I guess, that Lonzo was doing some rap stuff or whatever. And LaVar says, I don't think he can comment on anything but snacks. Now, anyone who knows what Jason Whitlock looks like knows why LaVar says this. Jason Whitlock is morbidly obese, and LaVar checked him. He's talking shit about his son, and LaVar said, you're not going to talk shit about my son. So if you want to talk shit about my son, I'm going to make fun of your weight, fatty. So then Kristine, of course, jumps in. So you disrespect women and people about their weight. So now she's trying to get fat people on her side. This is how feminists do this. They get offended by one thing and they try to include all groups of, quote, oppressed people to further their cause and their agenda. Kristine was right with the SJW line. So then she tries to shit test him. She tries to control him by saying, can you look me in the eye? He still doesn't do it. LaVar's not looking her in the eye because he realizes Kristine has lost control. And by looking at her in the eye, he gives the control back to her. Listen, Kristine Leahy wouldn't know. Kristine Leahy would not have known what the fuck she would have done if LaVar decided to turn and look him in the eye. She wouldn't have said, she wouldn't have known what to do. She was just trying to shit test him to see if he would do what she told him to do. She sees that he is the immovable object. His frame is rock solid. He never gets rattled. Kristine, being a female, sees this, so she tries to test his mettle with this, can you look me in the eye? It had nothing to do with the fact that she wanted him to look her in the eye. She wanted to control him, and he didn't let her. He was letting people know the second half of the interview that if people come at him, he's going to come back at them. Critics, he has taken so much criticism, and what a lot of these sports pundits and experts fail to realize is that the people that they criticize, they have mouths too, and they're going to criticize back. So then he goes on to say, so then Kristine asks it, or I think Colin says, well, look, what if Nike and Adidas or Under Armour gives you a call back? LaVar stands his ground. He said, look, I'm not pursuing a call with him. I'm not pursuing Nike and Adidas and Under Armour. And he said, as a matter of fact, if they want to sign my son, now it's going to be $3 billion before he said $1 billion. Colin says, listen, you don't believe that. LaVar stood his ground and said, you know what? I do believe it. I'm in the building. Listen, he overcame both people, even Colin himself, he is extremely sharp-witted. He's a smart guy, but LaVar, it was a thing of beauty how he was the ringleader, and Colin and Kristine were like a circus animals. He would crack the whip, like they tried cracking the whip on him, and he was like the elephant that grabbed the whip and cracked it on them. Dance, monkey, dance. And Kristine danced like the fucking monkey she is. Colin, not so much, because he's a man and he maintained his frame a little bit better, but he got sucked into a little bit too. So right at the end of the interview, Kristine, like a typical fucking woman, tries to get her parting shot and says, well, they wouldn't want to work with you anyway because you disrespect women. Trying to get the last word. Then LaVar says, listen, if you act like that, something's coming to you. What he meant was that if you act like that, if you talk shit about people, people are going to talk shit back. So Kristine tries to mischaracterize what he said with, are you threatening me? LaVar immediately recognized what she's doing and said, you see how she's trying to turn it around? He smiled because he sees this stuff coming a mile away. Kristine was no match for LaVar Ball, and he knew it. All LaVar Ball was saying when he says, if you act like that, something's coming back to you, what he meant to say, if you criticize me, I'm going to criticize you back. Kristine Leahy knew exactly what he was saying when he said that, but she was being intellectually dishonest and trying to make it look like LaVar was threatening her in some kind of way. And Colin knew what he was talking about when he made those comments. And so they blew it all out of proportion. Kristine knew he fucking owned her. And so she decided to get one little last thing in. Oh, well, now I have something to hang my head on to just completely make this guy look bad the entire interview with a false, are you threatening me? Now, while this was happening, I was on my computer when the interview started. I was standing in front of my TV. I had my hands on, guys, I'm not bullshit. I had my hands on my head. I was speechless because I couldn't believe this was happening on national TV. I'd never seen anything like this before. So here are my takeaways Kristine Leahy, LaVar Ball interview went. Like I said before, the first point I want to make is this is the first time, I can promise you, this is the first time that anyone has ever checked Kristine Leahy. I can promise you that. Just look at her reaction. She is positively shocked that a male is talking to her in this way. Colin Cowherd uses amuse mastery when he talks to her. I spoke with my good friend Doctore. We do a sports podcast together called Shots from the Pillbox, and I talked about how Colin Cowherd. I mean, he sings lullaby to Kristine. He'll poke fun at her. He'll neg her. He'll use push-pull game. It was like his dynamic with her. If anybody wants to know how to use amused mastery to elicit attraction, to build attraction with women, watch Colin or listen to Colin Cowherd's interactions with Kristine Leahy. It's a thing of beauty. The second thing I want to point out, Colin Cowherd agrees with LaVar Ball. If you guys can all go watch this video. Watch Colin's body language when LaVar is laying into Kristine. Okay, watch his body. You can see he wants to agree. Just watch his face. Okay, you can see he almost wants to nod his head in agreement, but he can't do it because Kristine, his cohort, is right there with him. So he remained mainly neutral, but you could tell he was pro LaVar because when LaVar said "stay in your lane" and put his hand in her face from across the room, Colin laughed out loud. He thought it was fucking hilarious. Colin also defended LaVar about not wanting to market to women. The segment after he left, of course, Kristine, now she wants to run off at the mouth, right? She wants to talk shit about somebody after they've left to get the last word in. The main thing that she was trying to get across was that, well, he doesn't want to market to women, and I'm just saying, you market. So now all of a sudden she's a marketing expert. Now all of a sudden she's a business expert. Okay. Well, Colin defended LaVar. He says, well, one of our chief sponsors is Tommy John Underwear. He said, I spoke to the founder the other day, and I asked him, look, why don't you carry women's brands? And his response to me, said Colin, was the women's market is convoluted, it's crowded, and we don't want to market to women, we want to market to men. So Colin agrees with the fact that you don't always have to market to women to have a successful brand. Big baller brand. Then comes my takeaway as far as Jason Whitlock goes. LaVar went after Jason Whitlock because Jason called LaVar daddy's little boy and called him completely controlled by his father. Look, man, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But if you sling arrows, you have to expect some back. Sports reporters, sports pundits can't sit here and write these columns and talk shit about these people and these athletes from on high and not expect. And it's funny because this is the way it's been for decades. They can talk shit about any athlete. They can just rip into him. It doesn't matter what the subject matter is. No professional athlete ever comes after reporters because at that point, now the media is going to turn on the athlete and then they set the narrative. Well, guess what? It ain't like that anymore. Professional athletes have voices. No, and listen, professional athletes now have control over what gets out about them. So XYZ reporter can say, hey, XYZ player sucks, or he said this and that and the other. Well, XYZ player can go on his Twitter account and be like, nah, that sports reporter is full of shit. Here's what really went down. So professional athletes, people in sports now have a voice, and they're coming after these people. Another takeaway is when LaVar said the only thing Jason Whitlock can comment on is snacks. And now, listen, Jason Whitlock is a good friend of Colin Cowherd's. He actually brought him over from ESPN to Fox, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but soon after Colin left, Whitlock left. And so Colin took up for his friend. He said, okay, well, now that's a little harsh. I don't blame him for that. But guess what? LaVar came right back and said, you know what? It's going to be harsh. Jason Whitlock has nothing but negative things to say about me, so I'm going to say negative things about him. And Colin had to fall back because he knew LaVar was right. He knew LaVar was right. The next, let's see. Okay, so let's go back to that. Let's go back to the segment afterwards. So Kristine now all of a sudden wants to act like she's a business expert. Then later on in that segment, she wants to say, and he also needs to be a good example, as a parent talking to people like that. It was so funny. Kristine was clearly rattled, and Colin even said to her, "Oh, you're feisty." She got defensive. I'm not being feisty. It's just that, nah, bitch, you were feisty. You got your feelings hurt. You got checked on national TV by someone who was not afraid, who was not afraid to talk to you like that. I say it all the time. Women who look like Kristine Leahy, they're not used to people pushing back. I said in one episode that hot women, and listen, let's not mistake, let's not, I'm not going to make any bones about it. Kristine Leahy is a 10. She is beautiful. She's one of the best looking women on television, without a doubt. She just turned 30. She's gorgeous. And Kristine Leahy she looks like a woman who's looked good her entire life. And girls who look like that from birth, they're not used to being talked to like that. They're not used to being checked in public or on national TV. That's why she reacted the way she did. She looked like a deer in the fucking headlights. Now, later on that day, they all did the roundtable on Speak for Yourself. That's Colin's that's Colin's podcast that he does. And he'll have anywhere between 2 and 4 guests on at a time. He'll have Chris Carter on. Sometimes he'll have on Ray Lewis, just depending on what season it is. So during football season, he'll have the football guys on. During basketball season, he has on guys like Chris Broussard. Jason Whitlock is a regular because he covers all sports. Well, today it was Chris Broussard who covers the NBA, Colin Cowherd, Jason Whitlock, and Kristine Leahy, and they're talking about the LaVar Ball interview with Kristine Leahy. And now, at this point, Colin has definitely softened his stance. Oh, he said, well, listen, he was disrespectful and he was out of line. I thought he was inappropriate. Colin basically slobbered on Kristine. He caped up for her. After saying on live air, just after the interview, Colin admitted that on air, he admitted, hey, look, people are asking me, well, why don't you kick him off the set? And Colin, listen, after that was the most red pill thing I think I've ever heard on sports. After he read the comments, he says, people are asking me, why didn't you kick him off the set? He said, this is the problem with the left. We want to tell women that they're strong and independent, but as soon as they run into a little bit of adversity, we want to pat them on the head. Like, oh, let me come in and save you. He used that voice. He says, I'm not here to save women. If Kristine gets herself into trouble, I'm not going to rush in and save her. He said, I'm not here to save women. This is what he said. So then on the flip side, okay, on Speak for Yourself, now he's sort of reversing skate at this point. So he slobbered on Kristine. But listen, Colin said what he said. He is red pill to the fucking core. There's nothing you can do. Listen, if you're a red pill aware male, you can't hide it, man. It is impossible. Now Jason Whitlock comes on. Now, of course, Whitlock slams him, and this is why he's bad for his son. Listen, and I love Jason Whitlock. He's another red pill guy. He has no problem. He has no problem checking athletes. He has no problem checking athletes. He has no problem with calling people out on their bullshit. He talks about social justice warriors. He actually calls them that by name. So he's a red pill guy. But once again, he too towed the company line. He said he's bad for his sons, and then he said the whole he said when he said stay in your lane, it sounded like stay in the kitchen. That's not what he said. He told Kristine to stay in her lane. He told Kristine, don't comment on shit you know nothing about. That's what he told her. Kristine got offended because she's not used to being told, bitch, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. LaVar told that to her, and that's why she got her feelings hurt. Then he did something that social justice warriors have been doing for years. And this is what really disappointed me about Whitlock. He related sexism with racism, which we all know are two very different things. He's talking about women and what they go through, and he says, me, as an African-American man, I said, oh no, Jason, don't do it. This is what the social justice warriors have tricked the public into thinking. They have us thinking that sexism, racism, discrimination against the LGBTQXYZ LMNOP community. They have us thinking that all of these things are related to one another. And the reason they did this is because feminism, when they started, this is why we're on the third wave feminism, because the first two waves didn't work because people knew that feminists were full of shit. So they decided, okay, well, not enough people are really buying into feminism, so let's bring in black people. Let's bring in gays and lesbians. And now they have this whole army of people caping up for each other no matter what the issue is. So if somebody talks shit about gay people, feminists and black people who talk about race, they all jump in. If somebody talks about black people, now you got faggots and lesbians and feminists coming to the defense of black people. Feminism, racism, sexism, stuff, all of those things, those are all exclusive to one another. They are, now listen, there are some areas where they cross paths in some way, shape, or form, but not nearly as likely as they would have you to believe. Those are three very separate issues, and feminism has done, and listen, got to give it to them. They've done a great job recruiting other quote unquote oppressed minorities for their cause. You offend one, you offend them all. Now, give me a second here. I've got something else here. Give me 1 second. Now, one thing that I did respect about what Jason Whitlock said is that he actually said, I thought the snacks joke was completely appropriate. Listen, he said, touche, LaVar. He said, look, I criticize people. He said, I am unpopular. I criticize people. It stands to reason that I should expect it back. Basically, he's saying, look, man, I talk shit about LaVar. I'm a big man. I'm overweight. I know it. Hey, completely in bounds. Eye for an eye type shit. He understands he's going to get criticism because, listen, Jason Whitlock is embattled, man. I mean, like he takes a lot of arrows. He really, really does. Now, toward the end of this is funny. Kristine, toward the end of Speak for Yourself, the after party, she says she wants to have him back on the show so long as he looks her in the eye and not be disrespectful. And then right at the end, she says, let's do it man to man, which is a problem in and of itself. You can't debate somebody man to man if you're a fucking woman. He sees you as a woman. That's a microcosm of the flawed thinking of these chicks. Kristine Leahy says she likes debate, but she wants it to be respectful. She calls herself a reporter. She's now, quote, out on LaVar for no other reason but that LaVar hurt her feelings. That's the only reason why. And she tried to rationalize it and make it sound logical. But dude, we know Kristine now doesn't like LaVar Ball because he hurt her feelings. He checked her. She says he's opened himself up for criticism, but he can fire back at her, and that is not disrespect. And she just couldn't let it go. Chris Carter and Nick Wright came on to the show shortly after LaVar Ball, and she says, oh, you guys can look me in the eye. She couldn't leave it alone. And then at the end of another segment, she says, oh, and by the way, the owner of the Lakers is Jeannie Buss. I hope she was watching. Bitch, oh my God. She couldn't let it go. So now she is rooting for LaVar Ball to fail. And it's funny because she disingenuously now wants him back. She doesn't want it. Listen, she wants no part of LaVar Ball. You kidding me? She wants no parts of LaVar Ball. No fucking way. She can say whatever she wants. The reason she said that she wants him back on the show is because she knows he's never going to be back on the show. This is like women telling a man that she can kick his ass because she knows that she's likely never going to fight him. Though that seems to be changing. Okay, so let's get to the Q&A here. I've got a few comments to get to. Oh, you guys are lively here. Give me a second here. Charles Merchant says, I'm not a big Ball fan, but he did the right thing. He says, Leahy believes she's a factor using being a woman to upstage Ball, and he let her have it. Charles, I could not agree more. Kristine Leahy is under the gross assumption that she is on the herd for her talent. Kristine Leahy is not on the herd for her talent. She is on the herd because of the way she looks. And that's okay. Like, men are all the time hating on women who are good looking and on TV. Oh, the reason why she got the job is because she looks good. Dude, don't hate. Look, listen, man, like what's she supposed to do? Apologize that she's hot? Listen, man, hotter women live lives of privilege. Get used to it. I am not hating on Kristine, and I like looking at her. I just don't like watching her talk. Logic Win said she got teary-eyed too. You know what? I'll have to watch it again. I don't think I caught that. Let's see here. Charles Merchant rightfully points out she instantly goes into victim mode. Logic Win says, just like Donovan says, she's not used to dealing with a real nigga. Nah, she ain't. She wasn't ready for him, man. She was not ready for him. Leahy becomes passive-aggressive, forcing her way. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Leahy needs eye contact. Yes, right. I pointed this out. Charles Merchant again says Leahy needs eye contact to extract her fear. Then she can claim to be his victim. I agree with that end of it because at that point, if he looks her in the eye, now she can have the narrative. And he tried to intimidate me when he looked at me. And nobody can verify that but her. But I think that another reason why she demanded that he look at her is because she wanted to control him. She was shit testing him. She knew that he had unbreakable frame. I'm going to try and break his frame. I'm going to demand that he look at me and give me respect on national TV, and he has to do it. Didn't look at the bitch. Okay, let's see. Albert Hughes says she was probably turned on at the same time. That's why she looks so confused. Listen, that could be it. Women are definitely turned on by bravado. I wouldn't be surprised at that. Travante Conway says market to men and women will follow. Could not agree more. Listen, man, women don't. The only thing women set the trends on are women's fucking clothes. That's all there is to it. Okay, guys, that does it for this episode of TSR Live. As always, be sure to follow me on Twitter at Donovan_Sharp. If you like the video, subscribe to my page. Definitely like the video. Get the word out. If you want to support the show, it's not going to cost you a thing. Just bookmark the Amazon link on my homepage. Do all your Amazon shopping through that link. And of course, like I said at the top of the show, guys, subscribe to that newsletter. I'm not going to spam you. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I just want to make sure that everybody has access to the sharp reality if the worst happens. At this point, listen, I don't know. I can't really say whether it's likely or unlikely, but it happened to O'Shea Duke Jackson. It happened to Tommy Sotomayor. It happened to, who else did it happen to? It happened to Obsidian Radio Live. It happened to Sandman. It happened to Angry Man. Like all of those channels went down for 3 or 4 days because a bunch of black bitches got together and complained to Google. So, and listen, fortunately for me, I'm not as big as those guys yet. So I wasn't in the line of fire, but listen, it's not going to be long before, people start, before I have a bullseye or before I'm in the crosshairs. Pun definitely intended. Give me 1 second here. It looks like somebody wants a response here. Let's see. Without a doubt, Kristine Leahy would bang LaVar because of this. She was, we always got to that. I don't know. When women are, I don't know that Kristine is turned on by LaVar. She might have been. I don't know. I do know that LaVar's attitude, his gravitas, his machismo, his panache. I know that women definitely respect men like that. Listen, Kristine Leahy doesn't like LaVar, but she damn sure respects him. She can talk all the shit she wants about wanting him back on the show. She doesn't want those problems. So I can't really say that she was turned on by him. Listen, it wouldn't be surprising. It wouldn't surprise me if we find out 3 weeks later that LaVar fucked her that night. I would tell you that. So again, this does it for this episode of TSR. Thanks for listening, guys.